Hello again, everyone. As you can well know, today is a holiday, MLK Day, so no mail today, no school, but you can still find music.
Hmm.
Yeah. And one of our members is moving today, so he can't be here. That's Jim. But our leadoff man is here. Fred, you can start us off.
Today I'm going to talk about two books I've recently read. One is But Will You Love Me Tomorrow by Laura Flam and Emily Leibowitz. It's an oral history of late 50s or 60s girl groups.
Hmm.
Uh, they interviewed over the few years the remaining members of many of the girl groups that I grew up with listening to on AM radio. The Shirelles, the Bobettes, the Chantels, the Crystals, the Ronettes, and the Motown groups. Of course, the Supremes, the Marvelettes, Martha Vandella, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, and they interview managers and songwriters and producers of the era, such as Carole King and Ellie Greenwich and Jeff Barry, who wrote a lot of hits in the late 50s, early 60s for all these girl groups. Only a few of these singers, unfortunately, got any royalties whatsoever. Any contracts that were signed by their parents were so intricately written that parents usually didn't read all the fine print and just signed away most of the girls' rights to
Hmm.
any of the songs or any of their royalties. Or they were told by managers that the money was being put in a trust fund, and obviously there was no trust fund when they turned 21.
Wow.
What's great about it is the remaining members that are still alive have incredible recollections of being on the road and being in the recording studio, how they got discovered. And many of them were with small labels like Redbird or Roulette Records. And but all of them had hits, big hits, especially the Shirelles with Will You Love Me Tomorrow, Baby It's You, and many others. The Phil Spector era on Phyllis Records with the Crystals and the Ronettes. He, just like many other producers and managers, was unscrupulous. He had the original Crystals, who had two hits of their own on the road, and he recorded Darling Love and the Blossoms to record He's a Rebel, and then billed it as the Crystals.
Hmm.
Darling Love never got hardly any recognition of the song she sang on for Phil Spector. And the Ronettes, of course, had a number of big hits, and Ronnie Spector married Phil Spector and was in an horrendous marriage, held hostage in a mansion in Alhambra, of all places.
Oh, I know that
I
place.
think
Yeah.
his big
Close to my
mansion
uncle's
was up
old
there.
house. Yeah.
She had to escape barefooted with her mother out a back door one day, finally get, and he hounded her for years to not perform, but she did. Stories go into how all the troubles on the road, Dick Clark's caravan shows they had to do, and many of these girls were from the North, New York or LA, and it was the first time touring in the South, and it was just one horrendous story after another being in the South. The harsh realities of being on the road. And Motown was no better for their girl groups than other labels. Barry Gordy, after he put all his energy into Diana Ross and the Supremes, kind of let the other Marvelettes and the Vandellas kind of fall to the wayside. And even the songwriters for Motown did not get much money, who wrote all those songs. The title song was a great song that came out, Will You Love Me Tomorrow? It reflects the aliveness of a woman voicing her concerns about sex, which you didn't hear about the radio much. I hear your sighs and everything else. It was a new era for girl groups, but unfortunately, like I said, payments were very marginal. If they had troubles, they got thrown out of the group. Some people couldn't even use the name of their group years later. There's a story in the book about the Marvelettes went to go on the road again, and they found out there was 2 or 3 other groups touring on the road as the Marvelettes. Some of them were so young they weren't even around when the Marvelettes had hits. So, the book ends with the Ronette stories, and it's a sad thing that they were lifelong friends, and then until Ronnie Spector married Phil Spector, and then all the trouble she had, they never saw each other again and never performed again as the Ronettes.
Wow.
The other book I want to talk about is Holding the Note by David Remnick. He's an editor and a writer from the New Yorker.
Yeah.
What's unique about this book is he meets up with the recording artists and even a New York DJ later in their lives, and gets to talk about them with them. Most of them are in their late 60s, even 70s, when he's writing these articles. Patti Smith, Mavis Staples, Buddy Guy, Leonard Cohen, Paul McCartney, Aretha Franklin. The profiles hold up, but for anyone who's read biographies or saw documentaries on these artists, a lot of the information you would know already. What makes it interesting is their comments and reflecting back on their career. He interviews Aretha in a dressing room at a casino. She's doing small shows in a casino late in her career because she won't travel very far on a bus and she won't get on an airplane anymore at this time. He meets Leonard Cohen after the big, huge tour he did to recoup some of his financial loss. As many of us know, Leonard Cohen lost $5 million to an unscrupulous accountant who was a dear friend of his that spent all his money. So he went on the road for couple of years, 2 or 3 years, to make up for it. But at this time, he could not tour anymore, and he was looking back on his work and his poems. And actually, in the Cohen article, it's the only time he really gets a couple of quotes from Dylan. And Patti Smith's article is real interesting. She looks back on life and holds some regrets. And that's the last article in it. It's called Vagabond. He even interviews Pavarotti, the opera singer. He interviewed him in 1993, and of course he died in 2007. He was recovering from an injury of his leg and wasn't on the road. So this book for me held some interesting quotes. When he writes about Dylan, he got other people to talk about Dylan, but he didn't actually get Dylan to reflect much. And Keith Richard article is actually not an interview or an article. It's a book review of Keith Richards' biography, Life. But anyone who loves music will love this book and brings back some good insights and memories for music.
He's a good writer, David Remnick. He's a
Yeah.
very good writer.
Yeah, he usually writes politics and stuff, but every once in a while he'll do a music figure.
Hmm.
We're looking up the proper spelling of his name. Sorry about that.
Oh,
Got it.
Remnick.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. All right, so it's not just music, it's reading about music as well. Thank you, Fred.